Yeah, so we're in the middle of Eis Hey, where it says in Nekudas Habir Baza. We finished off last time with a question. The Maamar explained, what's the idea of a poor? What's the idea of a geirel? That a geirel represents the level of alakus that's higher than ishtalshalus. Just like in a person, when I tap into a geirel, I'm using something that's beyond my seichel and beyond even my ratzin, something that can influence all the rest of my faculties. So too, l'mayla, geirel is drawing down the level of alakus, the level of godliness that's higher than the whole ishtalshalus.
Can I ask you something about that? When you say a geirel, in my mind, North American thinking, secular thinking, it's a draw. Everybody throws their thing.
A lot.
Whatever comes out, it's like flipping a coin, no different than flipping a coin. So what is it true? What you seem to be saying that it's no coincidence. Whatever comes out, nothing doing. It's not the flip of the coin. It's not a by accident. Oh, this is the lucky guy. No, Hashem already knows from way on high who's going to be the one. That's what you're really saying.
100%. A geirel is a theoretic way of determining between two choices. The original source of a geirel is, like we said in the beginning of the Maamar, we have to choose between two seirim, two goats on Yom Kippur, and the Torah says the way to choose is with a geirel. Al pi Torah also, and sometimes in very weighty decisions, we revert to a geirel in order to decide them. And what the idea of a geirel is, it's a force that's beyond, deeper than seichel and deeper than ratzon, and it's able to make a determination where those faculties wouldn't be able to. L'mayla, it represents, by Hashem, we're drawing down the level of alakus that's higher than seichel and ratzon, higher than keser, higher than ishtalshalus. The advantage of that, the power of the geirel, is because it's higher than ishtalshalus, it's able to bring about kapara, bring about forgiveness for something that a person did that's against what Hashem wanted. Therefore, on Yom Kippur, the geirel plays such an important part. Lifnei havaya tetaru, brings about the kapara. And likewise on Purim, this brought about the geula, the ness of Purim. So the Rebbe asked based on these two questions. One question, this shows the significance of a geirel, but then why was Haman looking to make a geirel? If a geirel is the best thing for Yidden, because a geirel brings about our kapara, our forgiveness, so how, if Haman is trying to destroy the Yidden, why would he try to make a geirel? Right? It's unthinkable that Haman doesn't understand what Chassidus says about a geirel. And the other question is that we say that the Yontif is called Purim al Shem HaPur. We could say that in Chassidus, a general idea of a geirel is a lofty concept, but we don't name the Yontif Purim because of the general idea of geirel. We name Purim because of the specific geirel that Haman made, which is seemingly something negative. These are the two questions that we're going to answer now. And the answer is going to be that Haman's geirel was also this same lofty idea of geirel that we learn about in Chassidus.
Haman wouldn't know anything about Judaism. He thinks he's just doing like in Las Vegas. Is that right?
No, so if we're learning about him in Gemara and in Torah Shebiksav, so then Haman wasn't a pastama insignificant person. It says in the Gemara, "Mibnei banav shal Haman lomdu Torah shal b'nei Brak." The descendants of Haman learned Torah b'nei Brak. So he also was. So they inherited it from somewhere. They didn't just. It didn't come out of the blue. So when Chassidus speaks about Haman, what? Not a Lubavitch yeshiva. When the Kudas Habir Baza, Shemitzad Hadarga de Hishtalshalos. In the levels of Ishtalshalus, there's also something that works against Haman. Haman is trying, in the end, to convince, so to speak, Hashem to destroy the Yidden. He's trying to show, to underline, emphasize the negative traits of the Yidden. Like the Gemara interprets all the things that Haman said, Yeshna Yamechad, Mefuzar Mefered, Beino Amem, how these are all bringing out the negative behaviors of Yidden. But Haman knew in the levels of Ishtalshalus, in the levels of Elikus, where there's a recognition, attention paid to the way people behave, to the way mankind is, no matter how bad of a light he's going to paint Yidden in, they're still much better than him, and he knew that he could never compete to them. So he knew the only way he could have a possible chance of somehow bringing out an argument against the Yidden is by accessing above Hishtalshalos, that above Hishtalshalos there's no order, there's no sequence. There, Haman can have a chance of coming out above Yidden. So he had to use a Geirel. His only chance was with a Geirel. It says, Nekudas Abir Bazeh, Shemitzad Hadarga de Hishtalshalos, with the levels of Hishtalshalos, with the levels where there's a sequence, where there's an order, where there's higher and lower. Kivan shebedar gazu, since in the levels of Elikos of Hishtalshalos, Maisa hatachtoinim teifis makim, there's a weight carried, there's importance given to the behavior, to the action of human beings. Iker hashpa huli Yisrael, in those levels, the hashpa, the giving, the kindness of the Eibishter will always be focused first and foremost on the Yidden. No matter what kind of ketrugim, no matter how severe are the prosecutions, are the negative reports that Haman tries to paint them in. Because generally speaking, Yidden are the ones who do Teiro mitzvahs. Vafilu, even those Jews who are not best behaved ones, Elu Sheim Hepech HaTzadikim, even those Jews who are in the category that's the opposite of Tzadikim, Hey Meleya Mitzvahs Kerimin, says the Gemara, they're also Pesha Yisrael, Meleya Mitzvahs Kerimin. Even those who are really, we call them, they're the sinners, they're the Pesha Yisrael, the Rebbe calls them the opposite of Tzadikim, they're also filled with mitzvahs. So the worst is, but if you're looking at Ishtalshos where we care about the behavior, he's more deserving than Haman. There was once a Satmar Chassid that needed a bracha for children, and he went to the Satmar Rebbe a number of times. He said, I want to promise that I'm going to have a child. Satmar Rebbe said, I gave you brachas. You want to promise, you have to go to the Lubavitcher Rebbe.
I agree.
So listen to this. So he went to the Rebbe, and he got a Yechidus, and he said to the Rebbe, I want to promise that I'm going to have a child. I said, probably, what kind of business is that? He says, well, the Satmar Rebbe told me I can ask you. Okay, so the Rebbe gave him a promise. Then the Rebbe, and he had a child. But then the Rebbe said to him, you're a Satmar Chassid, so tell me over a Dvar Torah that you heard last Shabbos from the Satmar Rebbe. Or recently the Rebbe told him a date that was a Satmar event, a yahrzeit. So he said to the Rebbe that the Satmar Rebbe asked a question. It says in the Gemara, even Pesha Yisrael, the sinners of Yidden, the Pesha Yisrael, Malay mitzvahs karimin, they're filled with mitzvahs like a pomegranate. He said he doesn't understand that. These are Pesha Yisrael, these are the sinners, these are the lowest of the low. How could you say they're Malay mitzvahs karimin? They're full of mitzvahs. So the Rebbe looked at him very seriously. The Rebbe said, I also have a question on that Gemara, on that Maamar Chazal. My question is, they're Malay mitzvahs karim, and they're so filled with mitzvahs. How could you refer to them as Pesha Yisrael, as sinners? So it says, even the lowest Yidden, they're Malay mitzvahs karim. Like it says, and therefore the lowest Yidden in Hishtalshos, they're going to be the ones who are deserving, who are earning the hashpah. Like it says in the pasuk, Hashkifa mim ein katshecha min hashamayim. That was by Bikurim. When we bring the Bikurim and we say the Vida, he says the pasuk, we ask Hashem, look down, mim ein katshecha, from your holy dwelling place, min hashamayim, from the heaven, ubarech es amcha es Yisrael, and give a bracha to your nation Yidden. That's what we ask Hashem. It says, explains the Rebbe, shemitzad bechinas shamayim, from the level of Shamayim, that the level of Shamayim represents Hishtalshlos, where there's a sequence. In the level of Shamayim, the bracha is always going to be to Yidden. In the level of Hishtalshlos, Yidden are always going to end up being the ones deserving. In the brackets, the Rebbe explains, why does Shamayim represent Hishtalshlos? Shamayim, it says in Chazal, is made up of the words Sham Mayim. Over there is water. It's the place of water. Umayim hu chachma. Water in Chassidus represents chachma, which is reishis hashtalshlos, the beginning of hashtalshlos. So therefore, when I say the Eibishter, please look down from Shamayim, what we're asking is the Eibishter should turn to us, should look down at us from the levels of hashtalshlos. And from those levels of hashtalshlos, like the pasuk continues, is ubarech as amcha as Yisrael, the bracha will always end up coming li Yisrael, to Yidden nishpaim habrachas li Yisrael. So therefore, if you're dealing with the levels of Hishtalshlos, Yidden are always going to have the upper hand. And since Haman was also aware of this, Haman knew Shala'achere kol ha-kitrugim shekitreg al Yisrael, that no matter how much he's going to prosecute, he's going to try to speak against the Yidden. Ein shum dimyein beinayu bein Yisrael, even if they have problems, even if they have some negative traits, even if we sometimes misbehave, but Haman is much worse than the worst Yid. And he knew that. And he knew that in Ishtalshalos, where we look and we pay attention to the way Yidden are acting, he doesn't stand a chance. Shalachein, therefore, mitzad hadarga de ishtalshlos, if the approach, if the looking is going to be with the levels of ishtalshlos, ein shayich, there's no possibility. Shahaman harasha, that Haman the Rasha, that's his title, that's his name, that's his claim to fame, is that he's the wicked Haman, so he doesn't have any chance that Yinatseach Chas v'Shalom es Yisrael, that he'll be victorious over the Yidden, Shegam apchusim shabahem meleim mitzvahs kerimin, that the lowliest of them is filled with mitzvahs like a pomegranate. And here Haman is trying to overcome the Yidden. In Ishtalshalos, Yidden will always get the benefit, get the upper hand. So therefore Haman had to come up with a scheme. And the scheme was, he knew his only way is to access the level of Elikos that's higher than Ishtalshalos. Since over there's no sequence, there's no order, therefore over there he could have a chance that maybe he'll push his agenda and get the upper hand. And therefore he knew, how do you access higher than Ishtalshalos? A Gerol. Haman knew his only possibility, his only chance, his only way of having an opportunity to maybe overpower the Yidden is by making a Gerol, by reaching the level of Gerol where things aren't so orderly and he can have the upper hand over Yidden who are unquestionably better than him. L'chein hipil pur, therefore Haman made a pur hu a Gerol. The kivan shebehadarga dilemayla mihishtalshus, because since in this level of Gerol, in this level that's higher than Ishtalshus, Gerol, ein maisa hatachteinim tefes makim, over there it's higher than Ishtalshus, over there the behavior of mankind plays less importance, is not significant. Va'akel shavim sham, higher than Ishtalshus, over there everything is equal. It's not a place where there's a sequence, where there's an order, so there's no higher and lower. Therefore, over there, darkness and light are equal. Like the pasuk says, like darkness, like light, it's all the same. That's referring to the levels that are higher than Ishtalshalos. Over there, where darkness and light are the same, Haman could be above Yidden. Over there, Yidden don't have the upper hand. So he had to make a Geirel. Haman knew that his only chance of having any power over the Yidden is with the level of Geirel, Achein Chashav. Therefore Haman thought, Shemitzad Dargas HaGeirel Shalamayla Mishtalshalos, that by him Hipul, by him making a Geirel, by him reaching and accessing the level of Geirel that's above Ishtalshalos, Yesh Mokim Shehu Yinatseach Chas v'Shalom es Yisrael, that's his only chance to Chas v'Shalom win and defeat the Yidden. Later in the Maamar, obviously we're going to have to say in that case, where did Hitake go wrong? It seems that he did really have a plan. He did really have a sound reasoning in what he was trying to do. But first we're going to elaborate on this. It says, Oizvav, v'yesh lekasha, this idea that Haman's attempt was to reach l'mayla meishtalshalos, because l'mayla meishtalshalos can lead to negative for Yidden. And Ishtalshalos, Yidden are always the best people in the world, even the ones who are not doing well. And the only place where there could be an upper hand of others over Yidden is higher than Ishtalshalos, because since there's no sequence, so Yidden who are Meleim Mitzvahs Kerimein could have Chas v'Shalom the lower hand. We can connect this with what we say elsewhere about this era of the story of Purim. Hamavur b'makim acher, it says in Chassidus based on the Gemara. Binyan Achashverosh, so Chassidus says Achashverosh is made up of two words. The Achashverosh hu Achash v'Rosh. It's made up of two words, Achash v'Rosh. Rosh, we're going to say, refers to Klippa. The word Rosh has two roots. Rosh is, we say, Anovemai invei Rosh. The grapes are grapes of bitterness. Rosh has the root bitterness. And Rosh has the word Rosh, poverty. And we learned this year and last year, and the Basi Leganis from this year, that Reish and Dalet both show on poverty. Dalet is Dalos, Reish is Rosh, but Reish is poverty from Klippa. So Reish basically shows on Klippa, like we'll say later in the Maamar. Now we're going to first say what Chash is. Chash, Achashverosh has the word Chash and Reish, Achash and Reish. Chash miloshen shtika. The word Chash means quietness. K'di Isa b'Gemara. The Gemara in Chagiga says, in the Maisa Merkava, one of the words is Chashmal. It's part of the Maisa Merkava, part of the Kabbalic elements in the Maisa Merkava of the Eibishter. And the Gemara says, My Chashmal. What is this word Chashmal? It says it refers to certain malachim that are itim chashe, sometimes they're silent, itim mimaloi, sometimes they speak. So chash shows on silence. Now, silence could be in two ways. One way of being silent is someone who has nothing to say is silent. Or someone who's not allowed to speak is silent. There's a silence that comes in a negative way. It's because of not being able to speak or not having what to say. Then there's another silence of a wise person who has what to say, and nevertheless he knows there's a time to be silent, that the wisdom tells him to be silent, like we're going to soon quote, Siyag lachachma shsika. So there's a silence that's lower than speaking, that comes from an inability, not having what to say, and a silence that's higher than speaking. It's from being on a higher level. So the Rebbe says first, the shtika de chash, this silence that's implied by the word chash, he l'mayla midibur, is the silence that's higher than speaking. Al derech, like the Gemara says, mila bisela shtikusa betrei. Gemara says a word is worth one sela, one coin. Silence is worth 2 coins. Silence is more precious, more valuable, more expensive than speaking. So this is a silence that's higher than speaking. But then there's a silence that could be that's cheaper than speaking when the need is to speak, like we're going to say soon. There was once a yechidus of actually a group of people from Toronto, Chassidim, that had an urgent matter, and they went to New York and they had a yechidus by the Rabbi. When they came into yechidus, the whole group suddenly like urgent, and they stood in the Rebbe's room, and it was like a touchy subject that they had come to speak about. So when they came into the Rebbe's room, suddenly they all lost their nerve. No one wanted to open up the thing. So they're standing there, and no one's saying anything. And first of all, they're wasting the Rebbe's time. Besides that, the issue had to get put on the table. So the Rebbe said to them, no one else to speak. The Rebbe said, I heard from my shver that it's true that it says in the Gemara, Mila besela shtikusa betrei. It's true, the Gemara says each word is worth 1 coin, and being quiet is worth 2 coins. The Rebbe said, but when you're quiet, all you get is 2 coins. If you speak, every word is a sela, so you end up with much more coins. So there's the quietness. That's when the quietness is out of place, then yet that's the cheaper way. It says the first chash, says the Rebbe, the quietness, we're referring over here to the silence that's higher than speaking. The sheresh hadibor hu bechachma. The root of dibor and the keiches of the neshama is chachma. Dibor comes from chachma. Shtika, the root of shtika, of this positive silence, of this positive aspect of silence, that originates bekeser, in the sphere of keser shalamayla me'achachma, which is higher than chachma. This idea that shtika is something positive and that it originates in keser, this we find hinted to, says the Rebbe in the Maamar Azal, that Chazal say, Tziyag la chachma shsika. The gate of chachma is silence. Literally, they're saying that silence is the gate that helps protect and retain the chachma. But the Rebbe says, let's look deeper into this. The siyag la chachma, when I describe silence as the gate around the chachma, siyag miloshen geder umakiv, a gate is something that surrounds, that encompasses, that goes around it. In Chassidus, the makiv is the level that's higher than whatever's inside of it. the Geder, what's the Makif, what's the, in the levels, in the spheres, what's the level that we would describe as being Makif, encompassing, surrounding Chachma, who are Keser Shalamayla Mea Chachma, is Keser that's above Chachma, and is a Eir Makif over the Chachma. So if I say Shtika is the Siyag La Chachma, that means Shtika is Keser, that's higher than Chachma. So Achashverosh is Chash V'Reish, again, two words. The Reish we're still going to come to, but the Chash of Achashverosh, the silence of Achashverosh, is that silence that's higher than speech. It's the silence that's connected with Keser, the Siyag L'Chachma Shsika. V'yesh L'Kasha, this idea that Achashverosh is Keser, the Chash of Achashverosh is Keser, the level of Achashverosh is the makif that's higher than Ishtalshlus. We can connect this in Madi Isa b'Medrash with what the Medrash says about the name Achashverosh. Sha'achashverosh zeh HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Medrash says that Achashverosh refers to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to the Eibishter. Sha'acharis v'reishis shaloi. How does the name Achashverosh indicate the Eibishter, Hashem? Because Achris, the end, V'reishis, and the beginning, Shaloi. And Achris, V'reishis is contained in the name Achashverosh, so the name Achashverosh shows on the level of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But there's different levels in Elokus and godliness. What aspect, what level of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is shown on in the word Achashverosh? HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the way he's Achris V'reishis Shaloi, and that ties in with Keser. Because Achris V'reishis Shaloi, Makif, Keser is above the spheres, it's Makif. Makif is defined by the fact that there's no sequence, there's no order. Beginning and end, they're all similar, they're all united in Makif. Ki Keser, the level of Keser, who Bechlal in general is Eir HaSeviv Shalamayla Mishtalshus. It's the Eir that surrounds the worlds, that's above Ishtalshus, that's why we call it Makif. The Eir HaSeviv Koilel Achris V'reishis B'Shava. By definition, the Eir HaSeviv, what do we mean when we describe it as being surrounding the Elameis? It surrounds them, it includes within it the Achris and the Reishis equally, and that's the same idea there. For that we say Achashverosh is Chash, is the silence that's higher than speech, which is Keser, is the same idea that the Medrash says it's the level of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that's Keser, that's Seviv, in which Achris and Reishis come together as one. It's Achris v'Reishis Shaloi. Yeah, that's what we have to stop here.